Breaking the invisible code of scarcity. If your bank statement doesn't reflect your worth, the problem isn't the bank, it's the programming in your mind. Today I'll show you how to rewrite that programming so that the money comes to you, not the other way around. And I'm not talking about magic or temporary tricks. I'm talking about a change so profound that, once you experience it, you'll never be able to go back to your old reality. I remember a story that had a profound impact on me. Rachel's, which you'll learn more about later. She worked hard, putting in hours and hours at the office, and yet, it seemed like the money was evaporating. Bills arrived faster than deposits. But one day, she decided to do something different. She started changing what was happening inside her before bed. At first, it seemed like just a mental exercise, until, a few months later, she saw unexpected contracts coming in, debts being paid off, and a bank account that, for the first time, reflected the life she dreamed of. This transformation didn't begin in the external world, it began in her internal world. And perhaps you recognize yourself in this. Have you ever felt like money slips away from you even when you work hard? Have you ever felt like there's an invisible force holding back your prosperity, as if something were preventing you from breaking through an invisible ceiling? If so, know that it's not a lack of ability or luck. It's a mindset, an ingrained pattern, that can be rewritten. And that's exactly what we're going to do together today. But here's a warning, only those who decide to be financially free follow this channel, because they know that freedom begins in the mind. So, subscribe now, activate the bell, and stay with me until the end. Because only those who stay until the last minute will receive the key to unlock wealth definitively. And when you hear this key, you'll understand why some people naturally attract prosperity, while others spend their lives chasing it without ever achieving it. Chapter 1: The Power of Inner Alignment. Have you ever stopped to think about what actually happens inside your mind and body when you prepare for sleep? It's in this transitional moment, when your mind begins to slow down and your body relaxes, that you have one of the greatest opportunities to reprogram your subconscious. Joe Dispenza talks extensively about this, about how the state between wakefulness and sleep is an open door to planting new intentions and transforming mental patterns you've been carrying for years. And the most interesting thing is that he doesn't just present this as a pretty spiritual theory, he presents data from neuroscience and quantum physics to prove that this change is real and measurable. Imagine what happens when you take advantage of this moment of deep relaxation to focus on abundance, not worries. Joe explains that in this state, the brain operates in alpha and theta waves, ranges that facilitate direct communication with the subconscious. This means that the images and emotions you create in this moment have much more power to shape your reality. If you go to bed thinking about debt, your body and mind will reinforce this pattern. But if you see yourself receiving, being grateful, and experiencing prosperity, your system begins to work to materialize it. Listen to Emily's story, a 42-year-old teacher living with debt and money anxiety. She met Joe Dispenza while watching a YouTube video late one night and decided to give it a try. Before bed, she began visualizing the life she wanted: bills paid, freedom to travel, a comfortable home. At first, it felt strange, but within a few weeks, she noticed small changes, extra jobs opening up, people offering help, and a newfound confidence growing within her. Today, Emily says it wasn't luck, it was focus and inner alignment. Another example is Michael, a businessman who lost almost everything during a crisis. He had a habit of going to bed reliving every mistake and failure of the day. After learning Joe's techniques, he began to imagine himself signing contracts, closing deals, and seeing numbers grow in his bank account. Over time, this practice changed not only his mood upon waking but also his behavior during the day. He became more creative, bolder, and more willing to take action. In less than 6 months, he recovered his finances and established partnerships that previously seemed unattainable. And then there's Sarah, a designer who felt she could never charge a fair price for her work. Before going to sleep, she would visualize clients praising her talent and paying her gratefully. At first, it was just a mental image, but soon she began to notice clients willing to pay more, proposals coming from unexpected places, and a real sense of worthiness. Sarah realized that the change wasn't just in the external world, it was within herself. These stories show that it's not just about positive thinking. It's about getting into the right mental and emotional state before bed, the time when your subconscious mind is most open to new information. Joe Dispenza teaches that by tapping into this state, you can align your thoughts, emotions, and energy, creating coherence between mind and body. This is what he calls internally aligning yourself with your desired reality. The power of inner alignment isn't waiting for the universe to do it all by itself, it's preparing your mind and heart to receive what you want. When you go to bed, you consciously choose which story you'll tell yourself. And this story, repeated night after night, becomes the script your brain and body will follow to create your new life. The moment before sleep is like pressing the record button on your transformation. Chapter 2: The Magical Moment Before Sleep. Joe Dispenza often says that the moment before falling asleep is like crossing a bridge between two worlds. On one side, your conscious mind filled with the day's thoughts, on the other, the vast realm of the subconscious, where your reality is shaped. When you cross this bridge carrying fear, scarcity, and worry, that's what you plant and nurture. But if you cross it carrying images of abundance, gratitude, and trust, it's as if you leave fertile seeds ready to germinate overnight. And that's where true power lies. Science confirms that at this moment, your brain is shifting from beta waves to alpha and theta waves. In alpha, you're relaxed and receptive, in theta, you're even deeper, almost trance-like. This is exactly the state that monks and experienced meditators have sought for years, and you can access it every day, naturally, before bed. Joe explains that when you intentionally choose what to feel and imagine at this point, you're essentially sending a new program to your nervous system. And because the body can't differentiate between a real experience and one intensely imagined, it begins to react as if that reality were already happening. Remember Emily? After a few weeks of practice, she realized it wasn't just about imagining earning more money, it was about feeling the thrill of already experiencing it. Joe always emphasizes, it's not enough to think, you have to feel it. Emily described how, the first few times, her mind tried to sabotage her, telling her it was impossible. But night after night, she persisted. There came a time when the feeling of gratitude and peace before bed became so strong that she woke with the energy and clarity to take action. And the opportunities began to multiply. The same thing happened to Michael. He didn't just visualize contracts, he felt the weight of the pen in his hand, heard the client's voice, imagined the handshake and the feeling of victory. This created such a compelling internal state in him that, throughout the day, he began to behave like someone already successful. This subtle shift in behavior attracted the very situations he had been mentally creating. Joe calls this coherence, when your mind and body are vibrating at the same frequency as your desire. Sarah, in turn, began using this time before bed to not only imagine clients appreciating her work, but also to feel proud of herself, something she says she'd never truly experienced. This new emotional pattern helped her stop accepting low-paying jobs and position herself with more confidence. She didn't need to chase clients, they came to her. Joe Dispenza teaches that the moment before bed is a kind of creative portal. If you use it consciously, you can rewrite your destiny little by little. But if you let your mind wander to worries, you repeat the same script every day, and life tends to stay the same. Therefore, he recommends transforming this nightly ritual into a sacred moment, shutting out distractions, closing your eyes, and creating, in rich detail, the scene of the life you want to live. When you understand that this moment isn't just the end of the day, but the beginning of the reality you're creating, you begin to treat it with more respect and intention. It's like preparing the ground before planting. And the more you do this, the more you realize the universe begins to respond, and money, opportunities, and abundance flow in ways that once seemed like a distant dream. Chapter 3: When the Body Believes Before the Mind. Joe Dispenza explains that true transformation begins when the body believes before the mind has concrete proof. This is when you teach your body to feel, in advance, the emotion of the reality you desire to experience. By repeating this emotional state night after night, you're not just imagining it, you're conditioning every cell to respond as if it were already your life. And, according to Joe, it's precisely this internal alignment that opens the door for change to happen in the physical world. Michael is a perfect example of this. Before discovering this method, he woke up every day with the weight of bills, a tightness in his chest, and his mind already worried about what could go wrong. But when he began using the minutes before bed to visualize himself as a confident and successful entrepreneur, something curious happened. Over time, his body began to react differently. He woke up lighter, breathing calmly, with energy to act, and even a slight smile, even before opening his eyes. This subtle change led him to make bolder decisions, approach new clients, and convey confidence, and this attracted investors and partners who previously seemed unattainable. Sarah also experienced this shift. She always felt insecure about presenting the value of her work, as if she were asking for a favor. But by creating a scene before bed in which clients praised her art and gratefully paid, she began to feel proud of herself. Little by little, this feeling became natural. When she realized it, she no longer needed to fake confidence, she simply was confident. And that changed everything. Conversations flowed better, clients closed contracts quickly, and the need to justify prices disappeared. Her body had already accustomed itself to deserving it before her mind even realized it. Emily, for her part, realized that, at first, sustaining this emotion seemed challenging. Her mind questioned it, brought up negative memories, and insisted it was impossible. But as she persisted, something extraordinary happened. The emotion began to emerge on its own. Some mornings, she would wake up feeling such intense joy and gratitude that she even wondered where it came from. Joe says this is a sign that the body has learned to live in the future before it becomes the present. When this happens, there's no longer any need to strive to feel it, you are already that new version of yourself. This process breaks one of the most common patterns, living in reaction to what's happening outside. Most people wait for good news to feel good, but with this practice, you turn the tables. By feeling good beforehand, you directly influence external circumstances. Your behavior changes, your choices change, and inevitably, your results change. It's as if the world begins to reorganize itself to match what you're already experiencing internally. Joe emphasizes that this isn't just a motivational belief. It's neuroscience. By repeating these images and emotions, you create and strengthen new neural connections. Over time, these connections become automatic, naturally shaping your behavior and reactions. That's when this new identity stops being a drill and becomes who you are, and it's at that point that life begins to accurately reflect what you practice night after night, in that magical moment before sleep. Chapter 4: The Domino Effect of Coherence. Joe Dispenza always says that when you achieve coherence between mind and body, you create an energy field that attracts experiences compatible with that state. It's as if you emit a frequency so clear that the universe has no choice but to respond. And the fascinating thing is that this doesn't happen in isolation. A small internal shift triggers a domino effect that spreads throughout all areas of life. Michael realized this after just a few weeks of practice. At first, his focus was exclusively financial. He wanted to close bigger deals and achieve stability. But, to his surprise, it wasn't just money that began to change. He noticed his health improving, tension pains diminished, his sleep became deeper, and even his relationships became more harmonious. This is because, by vibrating in a state of security and abundance, he began to communicate with more patience and empathy. The domino effect is real. When one area rises, others naturally follow suit. Sarah experienced something similar. By feeling worthy before going to sleep and waking up with that confidence, she began attracting different clients, more aligned with her values. And, interestingly, her personal life also changed. She found herself more open to new friendships, more willing to say no to situations she previously accepted out of fear of missing out on opportunities. This new attitude brought more balance and joy. Joe explains that this is a direct result of emotional coherence. When you maintain a consistent frequency, your decisions and actions begin to reflect that stability, creating lasting results. Emily, who previously struggled with a cycle of frustration and self-sabotage, began to notice that coincidences began to multiply. Unexpected invitations, seemingly chance encounters with people who offered exactly what she needed, opportunities that arose effortlessly, all of these became part of her routine. Joe calls this synchronicity signals that you are in alignment with the intelligence of the universe. For Emily, these experiences reinforced her practice, making her even more dedicated to using the moment before bed as a tool for conscious creation. The domino effect also extends to how you deal with challenges. When you're coherent, you no longer react on autopilot. Instead of despairing when faced with a problem, you breathe, reconnect, and find solutions more quickly. Michael says that, before, a failed negotiation would ruin his entire day. Now, he sees it as just part of the process, remaining confident that other opportunities are on the horizon. This resilience is the result of a body and mind that have become accustomed to the feeling of victory, regardless of the immediate circumstances. Joe Dispenza states that this coherence is like tuning a musical instrument. When you're in tune, your energy resonates and creates harmony around you. And just as a well-tuned instrument elevates the quality of the entire orchestra, a coherent person elevates not only their own life but also the lives of those around them. This is why, according to him, changing yourself is one of the most powerful ways to impact the world, because the domino effect is inevitable when your frequency is aligned with what you want to create. Chapter 5, Quantum Gratitude, the emotion that opens all doors. Joe Dispenza often says that gratitude is not just a pleasant feeling, but a frequency capable of aligning the mind and body with higher realities. When we feel gratitude for what hasn't yet happened, we send a clear message to the universe: I already have it. This certainty creates an energetic field so coherent that it attracts experiences compatible with it. The science Joe teaches shows that by sustaining this state, the brain and heart become synchronized, and this coherence releases chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, which strengthen the immune system, regulate hormones, and increase emotional resilience. It's literally training the body to live in the future before it happens. Michael always thought it was strange to be grateful for something he didn't have. But he decided to give it a try. Every night before bed, he closed his eyes and gave thanks as if a major contract had already been signed. At first, it seemed like pure imagination. After a few days, he felt his body react differently. His breathing became deeper, the tension in his shoulders disappeared, and a real sense of relief appeared, as if the problem had already been resolved. This internal shift not only improved his sleep but also made him calmer and more strategic in meetings, and it was precisely in this state that he closed the biggest deal of his career. Sarah used quantum gratitude to transform her relationship with money. Instead of complaining about the bills, she silently gave thanks for each dollar that came in, and even for those yet to come. This simple emotional exchange activated areas in her brain related to creativity and opportunity perception. She began to see solutions in casual conversations and old contacts. New clients arrived, referrals poured in, and her financial flow began to stabilize. Joe explains that this happens because the body begins to live in the emotional state of the desired outcome, and the brain reorganizes perceptions to confirm this reality. Emily, who felt trapped in patterns of scarcity, adopted a ritual. Before bed, she would intensely thank 3 things she wanted to experience. She didn't just think about them, she would place herself in the scene, experiencing colors, sounds, and joy as if it were now. This practice stimulated the release of oxytocin, creating a state of trust and emotional openness. Soon, her mind stopped looking for signs of lack and began recognizing signs of abundance. It was in this state that she received invitations and proposals that changed her professional path. Joe teaches that gratitude is a neurological tool. By sustaining it daily, we create new brain connections and condition the body to release hormones that reinforce well-being and motivation. Over time, our actions are no longer driven by fear or lack and begin to reflect confidence, clarity, and purpose. It is at this point that the universe responds, not magically, but as a natural consequence of perfect internal alignment. Quantum gratitude isn't just about feeling good, it's a strategy of conscious creation, where each thank you is a real step toward the life you've chosen, and where each night, as you close your eyes, you plant invisible seeds that, sooner than you think, blossom before you. Chapter 6, The Moment Before Sleep, the Golden Window to Reprogram Your Mind. Joe Dispenza always emphasizes that the minutes before falling asleep are sacred territory. This is when the brain begins to transition from beta waves, typical of wakefulness, to alpha and theta waves, associated with deep meditative states. During this interval, the conscious mind relaxes its control and the subconscious becomes more receptive to new information. It's as if the door to your internal software is left ajar. What you think and feel in that moment is more strongly imprinted on your system. Therefore, if you carry worries, fear, or scarcity to bed, you are literally programming the next day to repeat those patterns. But if you bring gratitude, visualization, and clear intentions, you open space for new realities to emerge. Mark, a math teacher in Texas, always went to bed mentally reviewing his bills and invoices. He didn't realize this habit fueled his anxiety and left him trapped in a cycle of worry. After attending a talk by Joe, he decided to replace this ritual. He began to imagine, in detail, what it would be like to wake up to good news in his email. Within a few days, he noticed he woke up feeling more energized and, curiously, new opportunities began to arise: an extra project at school, invitations to lectures, and even an academic award he hadn't expected. Joe explains that this is no coincidence, it's a coherence between emotion and intention, generating new possibilities in the quantum field. Linda, a California businesswoman, used the minutes before bed to mentally review everything that had gone wrong during the day. This kept her in a constant state of tension. By applying Joe's techniques, she began using this time to intensely thank 3 small daily victories, even if they were simple, like a pleasant conversation or a kind gesture. This change adjusted her internal chemical state, lower cortisol levels and higher serotonin and dopamine levels. The result was greater focus, increased creativity, and more assertive business decisions. Chris, a former military man who struggled with insomnia, discovered that practicing visualization before bed not only improved his sleep but also his emotional health. He would picture himself walking in a tranquil setting, breathing deeply, and feeling security and prosperity all around him. This repetition conditioned his body to associate bedtime with calm and satisfaction, and within a few months, he reported not only full nights of sleep but also a surprising increase in motivation to resume personal projects. According to Joe, what defines your reality is not just what you consciously think, but what your body feels to be true. Before sleep, your body is more willing to believe what you present as real, and this is the perfect opportunity to rehearse the future you desire. If you close your eyes and feel gratitude for what you want to experience as if it were now, you will be planting direct instructions in the quantum field and in your own brain. In the silence that precedes sleep, your vibration stabilizes, and the universe responds to the energetic signature you are emitting. Night after night, this practice transforms not only your dreams, but the entire course of your life. Chapter 7, The Snowball Effect: How Small Changes Create Giant Transformations. Joe Dispenza often says that it's not the big, one-off decisions that shape our lives, but the small choices we make every day. The moment before bed seems simple in itself, however, when used consciously, it can trigger a snowball effect that can completely transform your reality. By changing just 5 or 10 minutes of your nighttime routine, you alter your body's chemistry, reorganize brain connections, and send a new vibrational address to the universe. And from there, everything begins to align, almost imperceptibly at first, but inevitably powerfully over time. John, a computer technician from Ohio, decided he would no longer go to bed feeling defeated. Instead, he began ending his day with a clear visualization. He saw himself waking up energized, finding quick solutions at work, and being recognized by his boss. Within a few weeks, he noticed that he was not only more motivated but also began receiving positive feedback spontaneously. Joe would explain that John changed his emotional set point. His body stopped expecting problems and started anticipating solutions, creating real conditions for those solutions to appear. Patricia, a single mother from Florida, applied the same principle, but focused on finances. Before bed, she wrote 3 affirmative sentences in a notebook: I am prosperous, money flows to me easily, and I deserve abundance. At first, it seemed mechanical, then, she began to feel genuine emotion as she wrote. This sincere vibration began to alter her daily attitudes. She signed up for free courses, networked more confidently, and, within a few months, doubled her income. Joe notes that repetition, combined with emotion, creates increasingly stronger neural networks, until the new behavior becomes automatic. David, who worked in sales, decided to try something simple: listening to a recording of positive affirmations before bed. Each night, his body relaxed faster, and his mind absorbed those ideas as truths. After a while, he noticed he reacted more positively to challenging situations, closing deals that would have previously eluded him. This new normal was a direct result of the subconscious training, combined with the emotional coherence that Joe so often teaches. The snowball effect isn't mystical in the sense of something happening outside of you. It's mystical because it seems magical from the outside, but it's completely explainable by neuroscience and quantum physics. A small, consistent practice reprograms your body to live at a new frequency. This frequency attracts compatible experiences. These experiences further reinforce the new emotional state, and the cycle feeds back. That's why, by changing something as small as your last minutes of consciousness before sleep, you not only improve tomorrow, but pave the way for an entirely redesigned future. And when you look back, you'll realize it all began with that simple decision to not go to bed carrying the weight of the day, but rather the light of the tomorrow you've already chosen to live. Chapter 8, Quantum Physics Applied to Your Life. Joe Dispenza likes to point out that personal transformation isn't just a philosophical or spiritual concept, it can be explained in light of quantum physics. According to him, every thought, every emotion, and every intention you hold generates an electromagnetic field around your body. This field isn't static, it interacts with the quantum field and ocean of infinite possibilities that exists beyond our perceived reality. It's in this field that all possible versions of your life already exist, waiting for your inner alignment to manifest. When Michael, Sarah, and James changed the way they thought and felt, it wasn't just positive thinking. They altered the energetic signature they emitted to the world. Michael, by seeing and feeling like a successful professional before he actually was one, sent the quantum field the message that this was his new standard. Sarah, by being grateful for money regardless of the amount in the account, vibrated at a frequency of abundance that attracted more of the same. James, by making decisions based on expansion rather than fear, sends signals consistent with opportunities for growth. Joe explains that, just as in quantum mechanics, the observer influences the experiment. In real life, you are the observer, and the experiment is your reality. By repeatedly focusing on a desired outcome, experiencing it as real, you collapse possibilities into the field and shape the experience you desire. This means your future is not fixed, it is moldable, and the mold is made by combining clear intention with heightened emotion. But there's a crucial detail: visualizing or affirming isn't enough, you need to sustain the corresponding emotional state long enough for your body to memorize this new pattern. This is where mind-heart coherence comes in, something science can already measure through heartbeats and brain patterns. When you enter this state, your body stops sending survival signals and starts operating in creation mode. Michael noticed this when, after weeks of practice, he no longer felt anxious when thinking about the future. His body was so accustomed to the feeling of security and confidence that previously stressful situations seemed easy to handle. Sarah noticed the change when she noticed her mood and energy no longer fluctuated with her bank balance. James felt the effect when his team began to respond with more enthusiasm and proactivity, a direct reflection of the energy he exuded daily. According to Joe, when you change internally, the field around you changes too, and with that, people, opportunities, and circumstances that previously seemed distant begin to appear. It's like changing the channel on a radio station. The music was there all along, but you can only hear it when you're tuned to the right frequency. This is the essence of quantum physics applied to life. You don't create from nothing, you tune into and manifest what already exists in potential. And this isn't something that takes years, it can happen much faster than you imagine, as long as you practice it consistently. Joe always ends this teaching by reminding us, the quantum field responds not to what you want, but to who you are. Therefore, the question is not when will I get it, but who am I being now? The answer to this question defines not only your present, but your entire future. Chapter 9, Breaking the Cycle of Old Identity. Joe Dispenza teaches that the biggest obstacle to creating a new reality isn't a lack of opportunities or resources, it's the insistence on living every day as the same person you were yesterday. The conscious mind may desire change, but if the body, through habits, emotions, and automatic responses, remains stuck in the past, the future ends up being just a repetition of old experiences. Breaking this cycle requires more than willpower, it requires awareness and deliberate practice. The old identity is like software running in the background, it dictates how you react, what you believe is possible, and even what you perceive around you. Michael, Sarah, and James faced this challenge. Michael realized that, even after he began visualizing his success, he still had the habit of compulsively checking email for fear of missing out. This behavior stemmed from the old version of himself, insecure and anxious. It was only when he consciously decided to change this routine, dedicating the first hours of the day to mental creation rather than reactive work, that his range of possibilities began to truly expand. Sarah had an emotional pattern that made her feel guilty whenever she spent money on herself. This guilt was a remnant of her old identity, shaped by years of scarcity and self-sacrifice. By applying Joe's exercises, she began to observe herself in these moments, break the cycle, and replace the guilt with gratitude. This simple energetic shift not only improved her relationship with money but also attracted opportunities where she was valued for what she knew and did. James faced perhaps the most intense challenge, the ingrained belief that he needed to work exhaustively to earn results. This belief kept him trapped in 14-hour workdays, even when it sapped his creativity and clarity. Inspired by mind-body coherence practices, he began incorporating daily periods of silence and visualization. At first, he felt unproductive, but over time, he realized that the best decisions and insights came precisely from these moments of inaction. His new identity became that of a strategic leader, not an exhausted worker. Joe explains that, neurologically, breaking the cycle of the old identity is like pruning old brain connections and creating new ones. Every time you choose to act differently, feel differently, or think differently, you're weakening the circuits of the past and strengthening those of the future. At first, this requires conscious effort, then, with repetition, it becomes second nature. But there's a crucial point: the old identity doesn't disappear on its own. It will try to pull you back in with emotional triggers, memories, and even subtle sabotage. This is where daily practice becomes vital, to remember who you're becoming and not fall into the trap of who you once were. Michael, Sarah, and James learned that each choice aligned with the new version of themselves was a brick in the construction of the future. By breaking this cycle, you don't just change behaviors, you reset the vibrational frequency you send into the quantum field. And, as Joe always says, the universe responds not to what you desire, but to who you are. By ceasing to live as the old self and sustaining the energy of the self you want to be, you stop waiting for life to change before you change first, and life has no choice but to follow. Chapter 10, The Point of No Return, When the New You Replaces the Old. Joe Dispenza asserts that there comes a point in the transformational journey when there is no turning back. This is when the new you becomes so real, so present, that old identities and patterns simply no longer find space to exist. He calls this stage the point of no return, the instant when energy, chemistry, and perception shift to such an extent that the past loses its power to influence the present. Scientifically, this occurs when new neural connections become stronger than the old ones, when the body's chemistry begins to respond to the new emotional state as the dominant pattern, rather than the emotions of the past. Mary reached this point without realizing it. One night, while visualizing before bed, she noticed that she was no longer imagining herself in exhibitions. She already felt like a recognized artist, as if that were her natural identity. The invitations she received in the previous months only confirmed what she already knew inside. Joe explains that, at this stage, the mind and body are so aligned with the new pattern that any manifestation becomes merely a reflection of what already exists within. Alex experienced something similar with his health. He realized he no longer defined himself by the diagnoses he'd once received. Before, he'd carried labels and limitations as part of his identity. Now, he woke up feeling strong and capable, with a body that responded to his mind's commands. When subsequent tests confirmed significant improvements, the feeling wasn't one of surprise, but of confirmation. Science shows that by repeatedly sustaining a heightened emotional state, the body changes the expression of its genes, and Alex is a living example of this. Rachel, for her part, noticed the point of no return in her financial life when she found herself talking about her projects with a calm enthusiasm, without the tension that previously accompanied any negotiation. The recent contract signings, which materialized significant gains, seemed simply part of a natural flow. She was no longer trying to attract prosperity, she was living in prosperity. Joe emphasizes that, at this stage, there is no longer any effort to convince the subconscious or force the universe. The surrounding field responds spontaneously, because the person's identity is already consistent with the desired reality. The point of no return is, therefore, a silent milestone. There are no fireworks or dramatic outward signs. What there is a profound sense of familiarity with what once seemed distant. It is the moment when the past loses its gravity and the future ceases to be a dream and becomes the ongoing present. And perhaps most importantly, reaching this stage requires not perfection, but consistency. It is the result of nights and nights of coherence between intention and emotion, of choosing, over and over, as someone already living the desired reality. As Joe says, when you become the new you, the old world can no longer find you, and it is at that moment that manifestation becomes your natural state of being. Closing, the cycle of conscious manifestation is complete. Throughout this journey, we've seen that manifesting isn't just an act of wishing, it's a profound process of internal transformation. Joe Dispenza shows us that it all begins when we consciously decide to leave behind our old identities, reprogramming our minds and bodies to live according to a new vision of ourselves. Mary, Alex, and Rachel are living proof that, by aligning intention and emotion, our external lives inevitably change to reflect what's already happening within us. They didn't just think differently, they felt differently, And, in doing so, they created a coherent energy field capable of influencing reality at the deepest level. Science confirms that when we combine clear thoughts and elevated emotions, we alter our biology and send a signal to the quantum field that cannot be ignored. The heart and brain, working in coherence, become a powerful transmitter that connects our internal state with the infinite possibilities of the universe. And when we repeat this state night after night, especially before sleep, we install a new pattern in the subconscious that begins to guide our actions, perceptions, and opportunities. Now, the choice is in your hands. You can continue living according to old habits and emotions, or you can, starting today, decide to live as the version of yourself who has already achieved what you desire. Remember, it's not about waiting to feel prosperous until things happen, it's about feeling prosperous now, so that things happen. The field responds to who you are, not just what you want. If you've made it this far, it's because you've already taken an important step, you're becoming aware of your creative power. And to mark this moment, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Write the word in the comments flow. This will be your declaration to the universe that you choose to live in a state of abundance, with money and opportunities flowing naturally into your life. Writing this word will be more than a gesture, it will be a commitment to your new self, the one who already lives on the frequency of prosperity. Remember, the point of no return isn't a distant destination, it's a choice you make every day. And you've already started down that path.